There, it's Cheryl with Distress Textures, and today I'm going to be editing a farm scene. This image happens to belong to a gentleman on Flickr, just showing him what his image would look like painterly. First thing I notice in the center is a couple cars, and I'm going to want to clone those out. There's a lot of different ways that you can remove images or parts of an image from a photograph, but I'm going to keep it really simple today and just use the clone tool. But first, I want to increase the size of this, so I'm going to go to the top at my toolbar to view and go into 100% view. Scoot over a little bit here. I'm going to go over to the left, go down to the clone stamp tool. I'm going to make sure that my brush is set at a very low softness. I want it 0% hardness. And the size, I'm going to take it down to about 35 since that truck is fairly small that I want to clone out. Opacity at 100%. I'm going to go to an area that's green, grass, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to Option and hold that key down, and then I'm going to click my mouse and it's going to be selecting that grass area, excuse me. So it's Option and then mouse click. And I'm going to go over to the front of the truck and just click my mouse down and hold and drag the mouse across the truck to remove it. I'm not being really particular about it because a texture will be over this anyways, so it'll be very forgiving as far as it doesn't need to be perfect. I'm going to also go ahead and select the gravel in the driveway and just go over that other little car. And trust me, after this is all done, nobody's going to be looking in those little spots anyway, so it doesn't have to be exact. There we go. So I've got both those cars missing or removed. Okay, I'm going to go back to my fit on screen view. Another thing that's distracting me is over in this left corner, this big dark patch. I'm going to go ahead and increase my brush. I'm going up to the top of the brush, and I'm going to go to about 140 pixels. And then I'm going to Option, hold, and click my mouse in this grass. And I'm basically just going to come over and remove this grass by Option clicking on other areas of the grass and just going over this. And you don't want it to all look the same, so make sure when you're Option clicking on the grass that you move your mouse around the grass a little bit so it doesn't look like it's been cloned. And again, you don't have to do this, it's just I felt like that big patch of shadow was pulling my eyes away from the main focus of the structures. So we'll just go in here, and again, the texture is just going to be over this, so it doesn't have to be exact science or anything. Get this corner out. So there we go. All right, now I am going to get a texture, and I want something with clouds because that sky, it's a nice shade, but it definitely needs something if we want to go for that old painterly look. I have a texture open already. It's called Fly Away Home. I'm going to go to my top toolbar, select all, and then edit, copy. I don't use quick command keys. You can do that if you'd like. This is what I'm used to. So I'll go back over to the picture at the top, edit, paste. See the birds that are in there? I'm going to go ahead right now and clone those out because they're definitely not perspective size that I want. I'm just going to clone those out by clicking Option right above them and then mouse clicking over them. Option above them, mouse click. Option, mouse click. Going over to the right hand corner is the layers toolbar area, and this is probably one of the most important areas of this edit. You have a pull down menu here with the different options. Multiply, overlay, soft light, and hard light are the ones that I use the most. I'm first going to show you the hard light, which I'm going to end up using, but you can, in other cases, you'd use like soft light or hard light, but I'm going to go with multiply. I'm going to take a eraser tool over here on the left. I'm going to decrease the size of my brush, and I'm going to erase the texture away from the barn because I want to keep that natural true red color that's so pretty, that's the main focal piece. It's also like a little objects back here. I'm going to go ahead and erase it from there, and then the other two structures I'm going to erase the texture away from them as well. Okay. I am at this point going to pull in another texture. This looks really, really dramatic, but it's once you get it in the correct overlay mode, or the layer mode, it'll be fine. So I'm going to edit, copy, come back to the picture, edit, paste. And here you can try the different settings. Here's multiply, which is way too dark. Overlay, which I'm going to end up using that. Or soft light, which is a really subtle effect, which is actually really nice, but I'm going to go ahead and do overlay because I do want that dramatic painterly look. So over to the right is an opacity setting. I am going to bump that down just a little bit. So I'll take it down to about 87. And again, I want to erase away some of the texture. I'm going to go over to the eraser on the left side, again, the eraser tool. I'm going to go up to the top, bump the hardness down, and change the size to around 38. I'm going to erase away the texture again from the barn. I'm going to increase the opacity though because it's not taking away enough. So there we go. Opacity is at 62%. And again, just I'm erasing the texture away from the structures. That way they keep the realism. You could also increase the size of your brush and lower the opacity. So I've got the brush at 162 or 182 pixels, and I'm lowering the opacity down to about 45%. And I'm just going to go over some of the areas of the textures that are the texture that may be a little bit too much. Just too much texture. Just go over it a little bit. That way it's balanced. Okay. You could leave it at that, but that's not usually enough for me. So the next thing I'm going to do is show you that you can change the color of the sky simply by going to the layer that has the texture of the sky, clicking on it in the bottom right corner in the layers area, and then going up to image, adjustments, hue, saturation, and you can go and play with the different colors. I just want this to be a little bit more true blue versus say cyan, because that's clashing a little bit too much with the grass. So I'm just going to slide it over a little bit more to the blue, like that. I'm also going to go to my main bottom layer and do a little bit of dodging and burning. So over to the left-hand side, I'm going to select the burn tool, and I'm going to keep it very low exposure. I don't want to come in and just do a bunch of big bold strokes, so I'm going to increase the size of the paintbrush a little bit, keep the hardness at 0 and the exposure at about 25%, and I'm just going to come in along the edge of that road to define it a little bit, just to make it pop out just a little bit. Because if you look at a road, around the edges are normally a lot of buildup and they're not as worn. So I'm just going to add just a little bit of depth. You don't need a lot. And also come into the horizon lines on the edges. Just kind of add a little bit of shading. And at the bottom of the barn, I'm going to shade the corners just a tiny bit. Remember, keep your exposure brush real low. You don't want to come in with something really, really dark like that, because then it looks almost too cartoony. So I'm going to keep it, like I said, around 24–25%. Just go around the edges of the barn a little bit, around the base and around the edges, just to pop it out. Anywhere that you want to draw in somebody to just add a little bit of more of a storybook feel by adding the shadows. Okay, you have to excuse me, I'm a little bit rusty at this, plus it's 12:30 a.m. so I probably should be sleeping, but anyways, the last but not least thing I'm going to do is add some birds. That's kind of my trademark. I had somebody once tell me that he felt the birds, there was too many of them, I used them too much, and I basically said where I live, I see birds every single day. So for me not to have birds in one of my images kind of goes against what I see every single day. So I do believe in keeping them very minimal, and perspective is important. You don't want to use a giant bird in something like this. It's just really ridiculous. So if you have these really distant barns, you want to make sure that you keep the bird brush at a very low size, small size. So I usually end up having to try a few different sizes before I'm happy. So I'm going to go with this one, and it's bottom left corner is your color. I'm going to keep the black. The opacity, I'm going to have that at about, I like to keep it around 85%. That way it's not super, super blown out black. It's because when you see birds in a distance, they're not, super, super black and startling. So I'm just going to go ahead and tap once. It's a very, very subtle effect. And that's it. I hope that I was able to help you, and I hope you enjoyed this. If you have any questions, you can always email me at distresstextures@gmail.com. You can find me on Flickr. You can find me on Instagram. Thank you.